The story begins in a university hospital where our main protagonist has his doctor's appointment. Kim Isak was diagnosed with a sickness that had never been seen from anyone before. This guy desperately wants to live, but he was down when he heard the sad news about his health. Since he was the only one who had this disease, the doctor decided to name it after him. My condolences. By my best estimates, you likely only have half a year to live at most, the doctor proclaimed. Isak trembled in anger. But of course, he cannot do anything. He left the hospital devastated, and while he was outside, he couldn't even move despite knowing he was in a crowd. He was standing in the middle of a pedestrian lane. People bumped into him, but he was numb. They were thinking what was wrong with him for suddenly stopping, but none of them knew. Isak cannot accept the fact that he's going to die, especially since he has lived as a diligent worker ant in his whole life. His life finally seemed to be on the top, which is why he cannot believe he's going to die. The car started moving when the red light appeared. Someone strongly pushed Isak's back and told him to get off the road. Isak kneeled on the ground. He was crying, thinking that life is so unfair to be told he has months to live, especially on the day he won the lottery jackpot. He really wants to live longer. Anything will do as long as he lives. Tears dropped on his lottery ticket. He continuously cried harder while screaming, "Please save me from death." Years passed by. Isak became a skeleton. He still recalled the words he said back then. But he didn't mean he was okay just to be turned into a skeleton. He was complaining about why he should be reincarnated as a bald skeleton if he could become at least better. For him, he can't even enjoy the worst parts of living in this body he had. In this world he lived in, monsters were roaming around and attacking him. However, he easily crushed them all. The last monster then appeared. It might be the boss of all. It tried to kill him with its huge hand, but he easily dodged and pushed its face using his sword. He grinned and raised his sword while he said, "Finally, I can be done with this bullshit." The monster roared, and a bright light appeared the moment Isak swung his weapon. He then beheaded the last monster, and he received a notification that the extermination of rebellious forces had been completed. After being reincarnated as a skeleton, an inferior class summon monster, he evolved into an undead Lich. He brought prosperity to demonkind, who were on the brink of ruination. He was thrilled thinking that he may not have any hair, but at least he's the great demon king. The demons under his command loved him so much and cheered for him. They called him Isak, but he was annoyed and reminded them that his name was Kim Isak. At this moment, these numbskulls who can't even properly pronounce his name don't have a clue that it is the day of his farewell. His subordinate asked him where he was going, and he replied that he would get what he owned. His final goal is to be able to eat and even feel pain by becoming human. He went straight to the divine realm with the head of the boss monster he killed. Gods were shocked as they never thought Isak could kill the boss. Isak was standing in front of them and stated, "With that, I've taken care of all the factions challenging the gods. I hope you haven't forgotten your promise. As written in our contract, turn me into a human." The gods were murmuring as they were shocked that Isak could deal with it alone in a short span of time. Two gods were gossiping that this was just a scheme of the higher-ups cooking up to him a slave for free. Isak heard them. "Why are you dragging this out? You said you would turn me into a human if I took care of them. I did everything as you asked, you asswiped," he said with annoyance. The god in the middle was smiling at him and asked him if he could just do one more thing for them. Isak was mad as he concluded that these gods really thought of him as empty-headed as his skull. "What kind of pushover do you take me for?" he asked madly. At this moment, his anger was visible. He wants to make everyone, gods or not, pay for everything. His demonic aura surrounds the hall. He asked the gods if they made him do all things when they didn't even have a way to turn him into a human. One of the gods was scared, saying that she thinks Isak knew it. The god in front of her then said that it was why he was against it from the start. Isak reminded them he's non-perishable because he's a being summoned through a forbidden art, and he's outside the bounds of the natural laws. In short, he cannot die from old age because he's undead. His abilities also make him a threat, even to the divine realm. He scared them that he would kill everyone if he didn't turn them into a human. The gods were begging him to give them more time and promised to make him a human if he would take care more of their problems. However, Isak didn't agree and told them they must pay with their lives. He declared it was now the time for these gods to become skeletons just like him. His dark power surrounds everyone. They begged him to stop, but he didn't listen. He guffaws not until his magic power slowly vanishes. His mana suddenly disappears, and he cannot move his body. How futile. The one whose name is written here cannot move, no matter who they are. One god stated. There was a bug in his hand. He activates Banish Disaster, a highest-class holy art used to seal disaster. God then told Isak that he should have been thankful they let him do their bidding. Now they want Isak to live just like the bug. Isak complains and tells them they should have picked a fuzzy caterpillar or something better. Why do you obsess so much over hair, lowly creature? The bug replied. The bug shines so brightly since the gods were ready to seal Isak's soul. The gods were annoyed when they noticed Isak was doing something. Isak laughed at them and told the god who was holding the bug that he should have been quicker and never revealed his hand, as he rather blow himself up than become a bug. He shines and the gods tell him to stop. The light became stronger and a huge explosion happened. It turned out that Isak really destroyed himself. The gods were in disbelief. They looked at the bug who was shivering on the ground, and they wondered if the spell worked. The god with red hair smiled and stated that he thought the spell was indeed activated. He was sure that the Demon King God's soul had been sealed. They then gathered, and they were happy believing that they can now regain their powers since the Demon King is gone. It is natural to them that they get stronger every time a demon disappears. The head of the gods then said that they shouldn't let their guard down, as they don't know when another disaster of the same ilk might be born. He proclaimed he shall create a perfect vessel of a saint in the human realm, and exterminate every last demon there is. One of the gods under him asked if he was okay since he exhausted a lot of his powers. He then replied that not worry and just select a proper soul to put in the body of the saint. He carried the bug, as he was sure it was really the body of the Demon King now. He declared that he would torture the Demon King as a bug for all of eternity. Right now, Isak told himself that he must have lost his mind, and he knew he was conned by gods. He concludes that he got stupid because he was a brainless skeleton. He thought he had become a bug, but he was confused when he saw the bright surroundings. He was also expecting he didn't have hands to cover his eyes, but then he saw two little hands. He felt warm and damp, and he was wondering why he had these hands if he was already a bug. He paused when he realized he was in the body of a human. He was so excited thinking that the gods somehow messed up the seal. "Oh my Holy One, the saint has opened his eyes," a nanny said. He was shocked when he was called a saint. He looked at the nanny, and the nanny asked him why he had woken up from his nap. There was also a male nanny together with the lady nanny. He proclaimed that it would be nice if the saint could have just kept sleeping. Isak was confused, wondering who these guys were. While staring at the nannies, he noticed a dark aura from them. They were ironically smiling at him and stated that they had their job to do. The male nanny was holding a baby bottle and told Isak that they needed him to fall back asleep forever in peace. Isak was terrified. He was mad since he just died, and now he needed to die again. The male nanny smirked at him and tried to put the bottle in his mouth, but he refused to accept it. He turned around while the nannies were confused as to why he wouldn't eat. They don't have any idea that Isak has just finally become a human and doesn't want to eat something that is suspicious so easily. Of course, he was still wondering about how he became a human. While thinking, he was shocked when the nanny said, "Please eat like a baby should and sleep forever. No, sleep soundly, Sir Isak." He looked back at the nannies with a shocked reaction. Isak is the other pronunciation of his real name, Isak. He concludes that the gods write Isak to the bug when they use the spell Banish Disaster to seal him away. He was thrilled as he now realized that it was why he didn't get sealed and reincarnated instead into a different body with the same name. He evilly laughed thinking that those gods were fools for failing to seal him away. While laughing, the nannies got a chance to put the baby bottle in his mouth. He still tries to resist, and the nannies feel how strong he is. He stopped resisting when he found out that the flavor of the drink was like vegetable juice. He was blank by the fact that the nannies were trying to kill him with this garbage. The nannies were smiling at him as they were satisfied that he was drinking it. At the same time, he felt ominous entering his body. Isak was currently at the Holy Empire Hela at the Central East Temple. A bishop was walking inside. He suddenly smirked thinking that Isak, the baby saint, should be meeting his end right now. Someone suddenly blocked his way, telling him that seemed very lively. This guy is the Emperor of the Holy Empire Hela, Alexander Heathcliff Hela. The bishop and his subordinates greeted the emperor, and the emperor then asked them what business they had in the empire. As per the bishop, They have come to greet the saint candidate of House Ashwa. He added that the Holy See must be present in regard to the Holy One. You make it sound like a burden by saying that you must be present because it's the saint. But wouldn't there be a major problem if something went wrong again after the saint candidate was left in the Holy See's care? Alexander replied, which annoyed the bishop. The bishop was about to clear their side, but they suddenly heard a screaming noise coming from the nannies. The bishop smiled as he believed that the young master right now is dead. Alexander with his men immediately rushed to the room of Isaac and instantly opened the door while asking what was going on. There was another nanny in the room. She was shocked when he looked at Alexander. Alexander was nervous, but it turned out that the nanny just said that the young master was too cute for having a plump belly after eating too much. It turned out that Isaac already drunk 15 bottles of the tasteless vegetable juice, but he didn't die, which made the bishop angered. The bishop cannot believe that the baby is still alive after drinking so much of the juice they prepared to end his life. He was very mad while still in confusion. A few minutes ago, Isaac felt ominous while drinking the juice. He was surprised as he realized that the juice he was drinking was a holy poison. It's a devastating poison that destroys the holy power of the members of the clergy. It doesn't have immediate effects, but because it is a poison, it becomes deadly if too much accumulates in the body. However, this poison is made from the mana of demons, so as a former demon king, this drink is just perfect for him. It was amazing for him that these nannies gave a drink made from mana to a demon like him. Because of that, he wants to eat up all this mana baby food. Every time he consumed a bottle of the drink, he cried so loud while asking the nannies to give him more. The male nanny happily gave it to him as he believed that the poison wouldn't work instantly. Isaac thumbs up as a sign that he was satisfied with this food mana absorption. After drinking more, he then closed his eyes and entered the world beyond the conscious mind, the unconscious world. In the deepest part of it, at the source of it, he planned to create the mana core because this place is safe. He focused while starting to do it. He put the mana he absorbed into the mana core. He needed a mana core to be able to use magic later. He was startled when a mana explosion happened. A mana core should be one of the 3 primary colors, but he was confused when he saw white. He told himself that the color wasn't the problem. He was wondering how this much power was present inside a small core that wasn't even fully formed. He was smiling, thinking that it was beyond his expectations. He took a step forward while thinking how many blessings were crammed into this young body he had. He concludes that he might be able to become a much greater monster than he imagined if he grew this power well. At that moment, there was a system with his name on it, and below is a survive button. He clicked survive while recalling how devastated his past life was. Survival is his desperate desire engraved deep within his survival soul. No matter what, he wanted to survive. In the end, that became the genesis of the Skeleton King, and he was able to create special original buffs and skills. And those spells were inherited by his current body. While he was in the process, the nannies thought that he was finally dead. But then he suddenly raised his index finger and asked for one more bottle of juice. He kept on asking and was expecting he could get a stronger drink. Back to the present time, Alexander was relieved that nothing bad happened to Isaac. Isaac was also glad despite that he was nearly assassinated. At this time, the bishop was terrified when he noticed that Isaac was staring at him. Isaac then told himself he couldn't afford to be suspicious no matter what, so he smiled widely, just like an innocent baby. The bishop was still mad staring at him. He was expecting that Isaac should have died, but seeing him laughing only made him annoyed more and more. A few days prior at the headquarters of the Holy See, the bishop informed the cardinal that whoever becomes the saint will possess the Holy Empire. The cardinal grabbed the glass of wine and replied that it was why those nobles were all declaring their child to be saints. The bishop then told him not to worry, as they were dealing with the other saint candidates. The cardinal was satisfied with his response, however. He mentioned he happened to hear a very unpleasant rumor. That is about a saint candidate who appeared from House Ashwa. The cardinal was annoyed while saying it. The bishop was terrified of him and told him that there was nothing they could do about the House of Ashwa. The cardinal dropped his wine and stated, "He probably died before you got here. I just need you to verify the corpse. I acted first to ensure his death." It turned out that he wanted the saint to only come from his House of Barrett. This guy is also the head of House Barrett, Harai Barrett. Right now, the bishop cannot accept seeing Isaac still alive after he was told that the baby would be dead. He was confused why, but of course he cannot act suspicious. Alexander touched Isaac and said, "How interesting. Such shiny platinum blonde hair. Our Holy Empire's founder had the same hair color. Wouldn't you agree, Bishop?" The bishop was startled when the emperor asked his opinion. On the other hand, Isaac was staring at the emperor. Alexander then proclaimed that Isaac looked even closer to God than the current pope, and he concluded that Isaac must be the final saint candidate. Isaac was dumbfounded upon hearing it. He now understood why the nannies were calling him a saint. As it turned out, he was the saint candidate. The bishop at the same time wasn't in favor of seeing the emperor, starting to favor Isaac. "Your Majesty, please allow me to inspect the child," he offered. Alexander felt a little bit annoyed and asked the bishop what was wrong. The bishop then said that something was odd, as there was no way a baby could finish 15 bottles of vegetable juice. But for Alexander, there is no strange about a saint candidate eating monk food. Still, the bishop forced the emperor to let him check the baby. Unfortunately, Isaac burped, and the demonic energy he could not digest came out of his mouth. He felt nervous and was looking at the bishop wondering if he got busted. "Your Majesty, I just sense demonic energy from this child," the bishop said. He was smiling evilly, and Isaac was holding his bed in fear. The bishop then concludes that Isaac is a fake candidate bearing mana, and he wants an inquisitor to investigate Isaac. The emperor was mad at him for how the way he talked to the saint candidate. But he was calm and told the emperor not to worry since the pope already selected the child from House Barrett as the saint. Alexander wasn't in favor of hearing that Herai chose a child from his own house as a saint. Isaac at the same time understood why he was forced to be killed. The bishop suddenly carried him and proclaimed that he ordered the priests to go and bring inquisitors. Alexander tried to stop him and proclaimed, "House Ashwa is the imperial family's closest ally. As the emperor, I highly suggest you reassess the child at a later date." The bishop then replied, "I understood, Your Majesty." The bishop also informed Alexander that he spoke with the pope, and the pope mentioned that he would hold the ceremony of investiture for the crown prince only after the saint's selection. Alexander was dumbfounded upon hearing it. He concludes that the pope plans to refuse to officially recognize his son unless he agrees with his saint choice. Everything Isaac heard annoys him. He honestly doesn't want to remain a saint candidate, knowing that it is too risky that might reveal his true identity. He was holding the baby bottle, while the bishop declared they would investigate him using their holy exorcism art. As per the bishop, if Isaac is truly a human, he won't be harmed during the process. But Isaac will be exterminated once confirmed that he is a demon. While talking, Isaac suddenly hit his cheek using the baby bottle. It was too strong. Blood splattered and some of his teeth flew away. Isaac was glad to see it, and he told himself he would play along with the bishop's game. The bishop was suffering in pain. He couldn't believe that a simple bottle would hurt so much. He looked at Isaac, but he was surprised when he saw Isaac surrounded with holy power. He was confused, wondering if Isaac was truly the saint. Isaac raises the bottle again and hits the bishop for the second time. "What you gonna do about this, asshole?" Isaac said in a baby talk. He hits the bishop more, and the bishop realizes that Isaac was using mana to hit him. Seeing the bright light from Isaac made Alexander thrilled. Isaac at this moment decided to make the bottle even tougher with strengthening magic and give the bishop one last hit while pretending to be an innocent baby. The bishop kneeled on the ground after Isaac released his last hit. Isaac at the same time saw the golden light and realized that he sensed a faint amount of holy power every time he used mana. Mana and holy power are incompatible and can't normally be used together, so he deduces this must have something to do with the white mana core. The bishop suddenly pulled the baby bottle from Isaac and threw it away while saying, "I pledge this with everything I am. This baby is a heretic. We must immediately use the holy exorcism art." His eagerness only made Isaac mad at him more. His tongue was out while saying that he didn't plan to go far. Of course, the bishop can't understand his baby talk. He put his hand inside the bishop's cloth and pulled something while stating, "Would you look at that? You're hiding something quite interesting here." Isaac pulled out a hand artifact from the bishop. The bishop flinched upon seeing it. It is a sealed high-ranking demon's corpse, in other words, a totem. It is an artifact that utilizes the characteristics of demons, who eat the corpses of other demons to absorb their mana. The bishop was keeping this totem on him at all times to use against demons if he ever encountered them. And now he wondered who Isaac, a baby, knew about his totem. Isaac throws the totem behind the bishop. The bishop looked at it without knowing that Isaac intentionally did it because he was coming after him. The artifact dropped on the ground, and a demonic power spread out from it. Isaac wanted to tell the bishop that this was the consequence of his actions. Isaac snapped his finger, and a shadow lich appeared. "Parry this, you filthy casual," he uttered. That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment if you want another part of this recap, and subscribe for more content like this. Till next time.